Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at BTC. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, before we get into the smaller time frame stuff, we're going to discuss a couple of our higher time frame options that we're looking for here. Now, the more that we chop around in this area, the more and more I'm starting to like this bigger idea here that we could be within a bigger ABC pattern, where we're looking for a much larger flat looking to play out here. Now, it is possible that this move could complete into this low here, and we could look for a rally to the upside. We're going to go over this within our bullish scenario. But what I'm looking for within this idea is the fact of forming this B wave. Now, this B wave could technically complete into this point over here, or alternatively, what we could have is that this move could become the first part of this B wave. We see a retracement and then we see another push to the upside. So I'm still keeping an eye open for this idea of seeing a bigger move. Now, there's two areas that I'm interested in here, this 786 to this 50%, which would be this 28024. Now, we have come into this zone and we have had a reaction, so we need to watch this. If we start to break down from our current level, then the potential is here that we could see this become A, B, and C, and we could be looking for a move down here towards the zone of this 23516 to this zone of this 1618, which would be here at this 20,842. So this is the area I'm looking out for, that if this is an A wave here, we could potentially still see a move down into these levels. Obviously, we would need to break down and start to get a C wave structure to the downside. We would be looking for 5-wave structure off this high over here, and what we'd be saying is that we'd be looking for something like this to play out, get 3 waves back up, 3, 4, and 5, looking to push us down into some of those lower levels. So if we are going to see something like that, I'd be expecting this to start to break down from this point. However, if this bigger B wave is still in play, we could potentially see a move to the upside, where we could be looking at something more along these lines here, where what we'd be saying is that this move here is just an A wave, and then we could be starting this move down in a B wave. Now, there's two zones once again with this, because I'm keeping the idea open that we could see something like a flat, which could look to sweep this low, in which case we would see this as a WXY into this high for an A wave. What we'd then be expecting here is 3 waves to the downside. Now, if we do just see this as a 3-wave move down, I'm going to be watching this higher area over here. And alternatively, if we do see this extend out and we get something like this as a 5-wave move, 3 waves up, and then we see another zigzag basically to the downside here, the alternative would be a move down towards this orange box. So this would be aligning with a typical zone we look for an overshooting B wave. So if we do see something like this, I will be looking out for the potential to see a 5-wave move back to the upside, looking to sweep this high and potentially looking to push back up to this 30,000 to this 28,704 as a potential target. However, if we do continue to just hold this blue box area, what we could rather be looking for is the potential to see a move up towards this zone here of this 29,207, which would be our 1-to-1. I'm actually also going to just throw on this 1,236, which could be a typical zone that we look to see the C wave actually move up to, which would align quite nicely with coming back up into some of these highs that we've got. So just looking out for this potential that if we do continue to hold this blue box area, we could see something like this play out, where we see the C wave starting to develop. Now, if we are looking at this move to the downside as just a corrective structure here, what we would be looking for, in my opinion, would be something like this looking to play out, where effectively we have this as our A wave, this as our B wave, and then we're looking for a C wave to the downside. So we'd be taking this as our primary A wave here. We're looking for 3 waves up. Typical rejection is going to happen between this 28,271 to this 27,864. I have, however, thrown on this 0.382 because I think this is an interesting area, because this sits above this high here. And if this is going to be something like a flat internally here, the typical zone we look for rejection is between this 50% and this 382. So this would align with actually seeing, you know, a 3-wave move here, and actually we complete into this point, and then we look to push back down. Now, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this trend line as well here. This is potentially going to be something that could offer us support. It would also align quite nicely with this 1-to-1 off that 0.618. However, if we drop this down here, we can see that the 1-to-1 off of this 0.382 would bring us rather down between this 26,298 to this 25,985. Now, we need to be cautious with this, because if we're looking at this as an A wave in a 5-wave structure, then we need to be on the lookout here that what we could get is an additional 5-wave move to the downside. Now, if this additional 5-wave move fails to across this 1.618 level, the likelihood is that this is just going to be a three-wave move, and then we're going to see this continuation to the upside, which would align with the idea here that, like I said, we could potentially be looking for this blue box area here as a potential target, which would align quite nicely with coming into that 0.618 at the 1-to-1 off that 0.382. However, if we do look to push up higher here, then, you know, this will change these targets, and I will also be looking out for this 50% level here at this 26,672 if we do see something like this playing out. Now, the key thing here is invalidation of this internal count here would be this high. If we start to break back above this high, then the likelihood is that we are either still within the bigger structure here, where instead of looking at this as completed as a WX and a Y here, what we could then have is that this is W, this is X, this is A, we get B, and then we see a push to the upside. Now, if we did have to see something like that, effectively what we'd be looking for a target would actually be up here towards this 1-to-1 to this 1236, which would be here towards 29,929 to this 30,617. So if we start to see price looking to push back above these highs here at this 28,595, I'm going to be looking out for this possibility that we could still see this A wave look to push up a bit higher here. The idea would remain the same though. What we'd then be saying is that, you know, potentially this could still be an A wave if we do see a move up there, and we could be looking for some more sideways price action. So that would be looking at this as a bigger corrective move to the upside here. And all of that would effectively fall into that higher time frame idea that we began with here, where what we are looking for is a more sideways move, looking for this B wave to develop, and then looking for this C wave still to develop to the downside at a later point. So even if we do get this move develop as A, B, and C, we could potentially still look for the C wave to the downside, but I'm going to just, like I said, be looking out for that possibility of a sweep of these highs, looking to grab some of the liquidity in that zone. Now, it is also possible internally here, what we could argue is that we could have something developing like a flat correction, where we get something like an A, we get the sweep of a B and a C, which would still align with this idea, still keeping an eye on that. Now, basically within this, we want to see this B wave starting to extend out in time. Really, there's not a lot of space for it to develop, because really we don't want to cross this 33,548, and either we'd have to see this develop more locally as something like this, where we're looking just for the orange box, or alternatively seeing something more complex here, where we could be looking for this bigger B wave target area. So that's what I'm looking out for within this idea of the bigger flat. Now, there are other ways of looking at this. As long as we remain below this high here, we have to be on the lookout that we could see something more along these lines, because as we talked about previously, we can potentially count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with a truncation in this fifth wave. Now, if this is the case, we would expect rejection here between this 786 and this 382. We've already come up here to this 50% level. If we do continue to hold this level, like I said, we could potentially still be looking for one more leg to the upside, and we could be looking rather for a move up towards some of these other areas here. 0.618 would bring us to this 29,157. 0.786 would be interesting once again because of taking this high, but effectively until we actually take this higher level here of this 31,804, we need to just be very careful that you could still see something like this play out to the downside. So this would be our more bearish case. We would be saying that this could be potentially either 1, 2, and then we're going to be looking for that possibility of a third wave, where we're looking for that 1.618 extension, or alternatively this could become A, B, and then C. Now, off of our current high that we have over here at this 50% level, this 1.618 would be down here towards this 19,780. Alternatively, if this is A, B, and we're looking for a C, our target would be typically here towards this 22,765 to this 21,575 region. Now, obviously, we do have some levels higher up here, which we need to pay attention to, because if this is just A, B, and C, we could see a shorter C wave, something like this, where we actually just come back and retest some of these zones. So just going to be on the lookout for that. Once we start to see a 5-wave move developing here, we can potentially get a better idea that of where we're going to end up within this. But I would be keeping an eye on these highs here as well towards this 24,980. If we do see price looking to push back down here, we could potentially look to find support in that zone. Now, one of the other ways that we discussed this move looking to play out was actually saying that if we end into this high, this move could just be corrective, where actually we have this as ABC into here, and then this whole move once again is a B wave. But now what we'd be saying is that this would be our A wave, this would be our B wave, and what we were looking for actually was a flat correction. Now, it is possible that this could be just W, X, and Y, and then it's actually completed, and we could be looking for the C wave down. What we'd want to see here, if that's the case, is a nice strong 5-wave move to the downside. 1-to-1 target would be here towards this 22,626. Now, if we did see something like this play out, this would then mean that from this high here, we just have a 3-wave move, and we'd have to be on the lookout here that, effectively this could look to then complete, and we could look for a reaction up until we actually take the high. Though, once again, we'd have to be careful of that extension potential to the downside, where this whole thing could become A, B, and C. But this would be looking actually once again for a breakdown from our current point. Now, it is possible within this idea here that because we were looking for a C wave to the upside here, and we don't have a clear 5-wave structure here, that it is possible we could argue that this could be playing out as a diagonal pattern. Now, if we're going to see something like a diagonal pattern here, what I'd be looking for is that this would be wave 1, 2, 3, and then what we'd be looking for is a 4th wave. Now, this is what is tricky about trying to count this as a diagonal. Unless we count this as A, B, and C, and is completed here, and then we start to see another push to the upside, looking to take this wave 3 high. What we would then be looking out for is, that continuation down. But if we do see price looking to reverse here, our 1-to-1, which we're not allowed to cross, which would be of this wave 2. So this means that if we're looking for a contracting diagonal here, we cannot be longer, the wave 4 cannot be longer than this wave 2. Now, this is that 1-to-1 here. Moving past 27,027 would invalidate this idea and would actually put one of the other counts in play and more realistic. If we do see price do this, however, A, B, and C, we could potentially still look to protect this level, just having a push to the upside and then another push to the downside, and then seeing this 5th wave looking to play out. Or alternatively, we're going to start from here, where what I would be looking for is the potential to actually see another 5-wave structure to the upside here, looking for this 5th. Now, within this idea of this being a C wave, we'd have to look at this differently. We'd have to say this is ABC, wave 2, ABC, and then we'd be looking for another 3-wave move. So there's a couple of ways we can count this. We can count this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with an extension in the 5th. Once again, same idea here is you would have to then say that effectively within this idea here, we've got a diagonal pattern. So it does make it quite messy, but it is still a viable count. Now, if this is our 4th wave here, we wouldn't expect this price action to push past 29,864. So within this idea, we'd be looking for 3 waves up, not looking past this 29,864. If we move past that, then one of the other counts is going to be in play here, and potentially we could be looking at this either as a bigger corrective structure, or alternatively we could be looking for the breakout here. Now, if we do see this diagonal complete, I'm going to still be looking out for these areas here of this 28,967 and this 28,489 as potential targets to the upside here, which we could see get hit. Just because if we start pushing up higher here, we can reach this 1618 level here. But it would bring us quite close towards this 1-to-1. So both those targets are actually viable, but we'd have to just see how the waves actually start to develop internally. Now, if we're going to talk about this potentially looking to break out from this low, what we need to do is actually protect this low that we got over here, which is sitting at this 24,901. For as long as this remains, we have potential here that we could look to form 5-wave structure to the upside, looking for a bigger impulse. Now, within the idea here, what I'm looking for is 2 options. So either we can potentially argue that this is 1, 2, this is 1, and then we're looking for another 2. So within this idea here, what we would need to do is hold 25,990. And what we'd be looking for internally here would be an A, B, and a C to the downside. Basically that lower time frame idea that we talked about here, where we say that this is our A wave, we're looking for rejection below 28,271, and then we're looking for another leg to the downside. That would align with the possibility of this being another 1, 2. If we do see this, however, and we do see a pushback to the downside here, the likelihood is, unless we get a deeper retracement here, that this 0.786 is going to become a target. If we did see a move down towards that 0.786, then what we would want to see is a move up towards 1.618 here at this 30,938. So we'd want to see this move complete 3 waves down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside, looking for this 1618 for more confirmation that this is looking to break out. If we do hit this level, then we need to watch for this 4th wave, potentially back towards this 29,175 area, and then another 5th wave up. Now the key thing within this is this would then all put this as 1, 2, all of this would become 3, we'd get 4 and 5, and this would then potentially look to push us back above these highs here. Now if we did see a 5 wave move develop like this to the upside, the key thing here is going to be what happens next. If we develop 5 waves up and we get 3 waves down, potentially then we can be looking for that continuation. If, however, we get a 5 wave move to the upside here, and then we start to break down in a bigger 5 wave structure, then we need to be very careful here that potentially we could be looking at this wrong, and we could see something like this as a bigger ABC, but I don't really like looking at that as my primary expectation at the moment, just because of the time duration of this B wave in relation to this A wave would be quite a lot of a difference. But we'd have to still just be careful, you know, if we do see 5 wave structure playing out here, it's only going to be on that retracement that we can get confirmation of a trending move. The other way that we can look at this is as a diagonal. Now, we've already talked about this idea where we're saying that we could say that this is ABC. Alternatively, we can look at this potentially as a diagonal pattern here, and if we do look at that as our wave 1, then we'd have this as a wave 2, and effectively we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for our wave 3. Now, we did not cross the 1-to-1 area of this wave 1, so this means that wave 3 is shorter than wave 1. Now the key thing here is, like I said, is we can't cross 27,027. If we cross this level, this would invalidate the idea of the diagonal, and what we'd want to see here in this case would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we can also get this play out in 3 waves where this is ABC, ABC, and then ABC. So I'll be watching out for that idea as well, because it is still, you know, technically a valid idea here. But what I want to see here is basically another push up above this wave 3 high. Now the key difference between this and the idea of this being a flat correction is that if we do see a pushback above this wave 3 high, what we'd then be expecting to see is 3 waves back to the downside, holding this support range here of this 26,990 to this 25,774, and that would then give us the potential of a bigger push to the upside in a bigger impulsive structure. Invalidation of any kind of impulsive structure here comes by breaking down past this 24,901. So we're going to be looking out for those 2 bullish ideas here, where we could be looking for a breakout, but we just need to see a bit more confirmation. You know, this breakdown at this point here, we need to be careful of it. We did talk about this previously in one of the videos, where what I was saying is, you know, if we want to look for more confidence in this idea of a break to the upside here, we want to see these levels holding here, these gray lines, and we were talking about this trend line here, the purple one and the yellow one, and we're saying, you know, we want to see price hold this level, and then we want to see a break back above the yellow trend line. Now we've done this, and we've actually got a retest at this area. If we continue to hold this, what I'm going to be looking out for is to see whether we get an interaction with the green trend line, which is actually from all the way back at the start of this move. So if we do see something like this, potentially this could be looking for that possibility of a bit of a breakout here. If we do see price actually move back above this line, come back down, retest this, we could be looking to actually break through some of these levels and look for more bullish price action. However, we also need to be careful, because there could be something along these lines which happens where this move could still just be a bigger corrective structure, like we talked about within this idea of the flat here, where we see price actually make its way through these different trend lines and then fail to hold this and start to break down from that point. So it's going to be very key here to see how we you know, develop, and I'm taking this one step at a time here. I want to see some of these targets getting hit if we're going to look for bullish price action, but we can't ignore that potential for the bearish price action either. Coming in here and having a look at the daily CPR lines, what we can see is that we've printed lower lines. These are also indicating volatility because the lines are very tightly spread. We have found support above these, and we do have the potential to test this 27,684. Other targets to the upside, if we move through that zone, would be 27,940, 28,211, and this level here of this 28,454. If, however, we just have this as a corrective move and we look to break down after moving up towards some of these levels, what we could see is that price could actually lose these central lines and test out this level 27,162. 26,915, 26,647, and this 26,391 as potential downside targets for today. So this would align more with the idea that this is A, B, and C. If we see something play out like that, I would be looking out for some of these lower target areas, because these would align with the idea here that, you know, we're looking for a bigger ABC pattern where we could be looking for something towards that 26,659. Now, if we come over here and have a look at the weekly pivots, what we can see here is that we are actually still in between our weekly pivots here. We have printed higher weekly pivots for 4 weeks now, so this is a good sign initially, but, you know, we still need to respect the fact that we are still in a downtrend because our pivots are still below these higher ones over here. So within this idea here, what I'm looking out for is that, you know, potentially we can look to find support here at this 27,355 and this level here of this 27,014. If we do look to push down, other targets for this week to the downside would be 26,628 if we're going to hold this S1 line. Now, we'd want to hold this if we're looking for a trending move, ideally. If we do, however, push below that, we do have 25,279 and this 24,547 as potential targets. Now, because we've lost this top line, this could potentially be resistance here towards this 27,668. And once again, this is aligning quite nicely with the 0.382 line here, just sitting at this 27,698. So if we do see price getting an interaction here, you know, we could just see this be a smaller B wave, and then we still look for that push down, come back down, test this S1 line, and then look for that reaction up, or alternatively, we start to break down in a bigger way. If, however, we do see price looking to reverse to the upside here, and we're looking at that idea of the diagonal targets to the upside that become interesting, would be this 28,708. Alternatively, for that bigger impulse idea, we do have 29,419 and 30,761 as potential upside targets for this week. Now, moving over here and having a look at the monthly pivots, what we can see is that we are actually above our central lines here. Now, these did print a lower line here. We did move up and actually test this R1 line, and we haven't come back and tested this lower target area here, you know, our lower CPR line. So if we did have to see a move down here, this wouldn't be surprising. These zones normally get tested, but obviously we've got a whole month to do this, so it doesn't necessarily mean we need to back test these levels right now, but it would fit into that idea of this ABC. Now, the support area here would be 26,701 to this 26,194. If we do hold this level, we could potentially look for price to continue to the upside here and look to test some of these higher zones again, where we'd be looking for a test of this 28,000, 29,031, 30,580. Now, if we do, however, lose these central lines, our downside targets for this month would be 25,415, 23,862, and this level here, this 22,822 as potential downside targets for this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.